Well, it hadn't rained for a while. And then that October 11th, that morning, it was raining, pouring down rain. He was coming back from lunch and he saw the chief on the side of the road. And then at 10 till 1, I said, wow, it stopped raining. I was in my car checking emails, messages, whatever. And I was like, wow, it stopped raining. 12:50 was when the accident happened. You know, really, we thought he was just a typical boy with the other two.
But he was always trying to help people.
He was always there to help people, others. We didn't know anything about law enforcement until in his early 20s. I didn't really think that he was going to pursue it, you know? And when he did, I said, are you sure? He said, well, Mom, it's either that or fireman, because he said, I can't sit in an office. He said, I got to have a job outside. He loved being outside. We would do homework at night, and he'd be going with his pencil, looking outside. I said, Matt, what are you doing? I said, we're working on your spelling words. He said, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow after school. I said, Matt, we need to practice on your spelling words. Oh, no, Mom, I'm thinking about fishing tomorrow.
Matt was always that kid that had the biggest smile on his face, no matter what they were doing, no matter what anybody had done to him. He'd just have a smile on his face, you know. And it didn't, you know, brothers being brothers, you know, they'd pick on each other, and you know, his brothers Stephen and Brandon, you know, would pick on Matt because, of course, he was the youngest, you know. And Ronnie would always tell me, he said, yeah, Matt's okay until he quits smiling. And then you better watch out. And Matt would. He would take care of himself. And he was always, but it didn't matter what they did to him, he always had that smile on his face. But yeah, that's just the way Matt was, you know.
So my name is Jay McCoy. Grew up with Matt. I mean, we went from kindergarten all the way through high school together. Then I moved next door to him when I was like 4th, 5th grade. Matt was always someone who was very easygoing. He always had this little smile on his face, a little smirk that he constantly had. Whether he was, you know, happy, sad, whatever, he would, I guess, hide it really well. You could tell when he got frustrated, but Matt was always a very easygoing guy. He was very honest all the time. He'd tell you, you know, if something was wrong or if you're doing something or if you didn't want to hear the truth. Matt was definitely good about that, at least to his friends. Maybe not his parents so much, but definitely to his friends. But yeah, he was always the happy person. Just always, I mean, that same little grin, that same little smile that he had all the time. And he always just had like a really good approach to life and just to people around him.
He was just a wonderful, wonderful kid. He was just, like I said, never got mad, didn't throw things. As he got older, he started playing jokes on his brothers. But as a little kid, he was just loved animals, loved dogs. You know, loved his dogs, and I guess he always thought it had it too hot in the house because we'd end up finding him in the hallway. Sleeping.
No, we'd find him everywhere.
Yeah, he would, because I had his bed up over a heater on the floor, and I always worried about him being too cold at night, so I'd turn it up, but then we'd find him in the hallway or the kitchen floor, you know, curled up in our back, yeah.
Hello, I'm Steve Seeley, retired school teacher from Conley, taught there for 28 years, so I do know Matt and his family very well. I mean, he was so much like his grandfather that anything in the ag department, DJ showed a lot of projects at the Hard Texas Fair. Well, Matt was his welder, and he'd have black welding marks all over his face where he'd wipe his face with the sweat off with the glove that's hot. I mean, it's dirty, and forget about it and go to class. Go to his next class. We'd tease him all the time. You need to go wash your face. He'd take his shirt and wipe it off. It's fine. It'll be all right. I mean, he's one of those type growing up that you don't get that many kids in your class that was good as he was. I never seen Matt mad at about anything. He always had a grin on his face. He didn't let anything bother him. It just, the most pleasant child to be around, even all the way up through till he graduated. Never saw him upset about anything. Well, there's always more. He's just a loving kid, He was really great.
Jay and Matt were the same age. Jay's sister is a couple of years older than them, but they all of the kids in the neighborhood, just kind of ran together, were all connected in some way or another. They, typical boys growing up, and of course, Matt's brothers were a little older than him, and one of the neighbors down the street, Kyle Roper, they were all hang out together, one of the things I remember is one year we had pretty good snow, and our front yard was just wide open, so there was a lot of snow out there. They built a bunch of snowmen out there, and next thing I know, they're out there playing football with them, and they were tackling the snowmen like they were tackling dummies, and they were just having a good time. And then they would another time they were pulling something down the street on one of their ATVs or motorcycles. I can't remember what it was. It was basically a sled. And I'm like, these boys are gonna hurt each other. But, they would get into stuff like that. And then they would go fishing on the lake behind our house, and they would be out there, and next thing you know, they're off in the water walking around, and as many of my lures they had lost, I told them, I said, you boys don't need to be walking around out there barefoot. You're gonna get snagged, but they would just do things, and they just had a good time together,
We did some stupid things, a lot of fun things. We even did our own little the TV show that the guys get paid to do stupid stuff. That TV show, we actually did our own little version of that when we were kids. We would line up we'd lay on skateboards and play chicken with each other in the middle of the road, in the middle of the street. But we did all kinds of things. We played basketball, went fishing. We'd go out to his grandfather's place, stuff like that. But yeah, Matt was always we were just having fun, doing whatever we could, getting in trouble, riding our bikes, jumping our bikes into the lake, whatever it was. So I can't remember who built the ramp, but it was just a little wooden ramp that we made, just a simple little one. Because I think maybe the weekend before, one of the guys down the street, they were friends with his older brother, and they had some dirt ramps out there, and we were jumping our bikes there, and they were like, we'll see if we can jump into the water. So we angled it off of one little piece of property into the lake, and we just jumped our bikes off and keep dragging them back in, and did that for hours that day.
We came home from work in November, cold day, and all the windows were up, and they were just sitting on the couch. I was like, okay, what did you boys do today? Nothing, Mom, nothing. Clothes are done, laundry's done, dishes are done. I said, okay. I said, Ronnie, come on, let's go start supper. I said, those boys did something. I said, we're gonna figure it out at supper. So we cooked supper. Then, come to find out, they moved some rugs in the living room, in the kitchen, and there were black marks on it. It was linoleum that we had. And though they had set firecrackers on in the house, and they had landed on the white flooring, then they tried to get his sander. Was it a sander?
Grinder.
A grinder, and grind them out, the marks, the black marks. You talk about, yeah. So I was like, okay, Matt's the one that squealed. Matt said he didn't do it. Matt would always tell us what happened. Matt was always one that said, I'm not getting blamed for it. Y'all did it. And so, but yeah, so, but they were just typical boys, just typical easygoing, just fishing down the street, or, riding their bikes to the store. It's just normal. And, Matt was just follow them. And he always kept us cool. They made him pay the pizza man with all this change after school. They dig through the couches and stuff for change. Matt would give him the change, pennies and quarters, and that poor pizza man. I mean, it was just, yeah. It was great though, raising 3 boys together. I would do it in a heartbeat. Do it in a heartbeat again. I guess God just didn't want me to have girls, and that's okay. Because raising those 3 boys, it was wonderful, wonderful.
They like to go mudding all the time. You know, they all had 4-wheel drive pickups or little Jeeps and everything, and Dad came out to my place one time, and of course my son was with them, and we had a spot down in the bottom. It stayed wet most of the time, and they rutted it up really good and everything, and then it rained some more, and they got in it again. Matt did. Yeah, and then so he got stuck, and I don't think we were home at the time. He got stuck, so he called Stephen, his brother, to come pull him out. He got stuck. So the time we got home, and they were stuck. I mean, bad. And my son got the tractor, went down there, pulled them all out, and they did it again. They got out, they just kept on playing. I said, I don't care, y'all. You're not tearing nothing up down there that's worth anything, so just get down there and have a good time. I don't care. But yeah, just pulled them out. Stephen and Matt both in their trucks, tearing up the dirt again, throwing mud everywhere. So I said, that's fine. But yeah, they both got stuck. And I think they got stuck some more while they were there. And Chad was down there with us. He just pulled them out, have them do it again. It's just fun times, Kids just love to have fun.
Matt, at one point in time, got into racing lawnmowers, and I can't remember if it was him or his brother had souped up a bicycle and put some kind of motor on it, and that was crazy. They would ride that thing all over the place, but he had. I think it was like 2006 or something like that. I had bought a new ATV, and of course Matt was always riding around the neighborhood on his ATV or their dirt bike or whatever, and I'm out there riding my new 4-wheeler, up and down the road, and Matt comes pulling up next to me with his 4-wheeler, and he's like, come on, you want to race? I'm like, Matt, we don't need to be doing anything stupid out here, and he said, oh, come on. I'm like, Matt, you're on a 250. I'm on a 400. I said, what do you think's going to happen? And he said, oh, come on, I'll get you, I'm like, okay. So we took off, Of course, I blew by him because mine was bigger, but he just had a good big kick out of that, But it was, little stuff like that, gosh, I can't remember. I think Matt was working for Height Millers at the time, or maybe it was Steve, I can't remember. But they'd hop on that motorized bicycle and go to work, and they worked over there at Height Millers when it was in Elmont, and I was like, you boys, just 10 foot tall and bulletproof, they live their life that way, always.
We knew he would want a job that was outside.
Yeah.
That was not an indoor job, 8 to 5.
Yeah.
But law enforcement was one thing that did not cross my mind. Really, it didn't. And but we stood behind him. We thought, hey, that's what he wants. We're going to stand behind him just like we did our other 2.
When we were kids, he always said he wanted to be some type of law enforcement. There was this old video game, it was Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, we used to play when we were a kid, and he always used to say, he was like, I want to be on SWAT, I want to be a SWAT member. So, and there he goes, he runs off and does law enforcement, he's been the deputy sheriff, so he actually pursued something that he wanted to do. Yeah. He was definitely like, if you needed something from him, or you needed help or whatever, like Matt would always been there. He was always someone to, I guess, trust and depend on if something was to happen.
My name is Jason Campbell, and currently I'm a deputy sheriff in charge of courthouse security and bailiff for the 82nd Judicial District Court. I met Matt. I was a Captain Game Warden in Waco. Falls County is my home. I lived here, so I always tried to make a special effort to help out the sheriff's office here, as I was a deputy sheriff prior to becoming a game warden. I know how hard it is to be a deputy sheriff in a rural county with limited resources. But I met Matt when he went to work here. Got to know him. If I was in this county and I heard a call go out, I would always go, not just for Matt, but for any deputy. I would try to show up and provide backup or that extra layer of security or whatever they needed. What Matt was like when you met him and when you got to know him were the same thing. He was easygoing, didn't get flustered. Very, very soft spoken and just easygoing, and he had always wearing a lopsided smile. I'm hard of hearing, and I'd always, he never. I don't think I ever heard him raise his voice, no matter how tense the situation was, and he had a servant's heart. I used to work a extra job at a pipeline. And I would always relieve Matt, and he would always relieve me. And the shifts were 12 to 14 hours. So when someone came to relieve you, you wanted to go, or they wanted to go because they'd been sitting out there for 12, 14 hours. But he would always, if we found ourselves relieving each other, he would always stay, and we'd talk about guns. We talk about guns a lot, but He was into four-wheel drives, and I had a Raptor truck at that time, and we'd talk about trucks and different tires and this and that, but I mean, he would stay 45 minutes. It was just shooting the breeze, and he was just very easy to talk to. And like I said, you'd look down and it had been 45 minutes. Like, crap, man, go home and get some sleep.
He would stay at the Farm and Mart when he had to be like on a 11 to 7 shift or something. And we'd take him dinner out there.
If he was on call.
If he was on call, yeah. We'd stay out there with him, and he'd have this big old surprise. What are y'all doing here? I said, we're just bringing you dinner. Just have dinner with you and hang out with you. And I'll never forget, them two were working on his ATV, and they saw a snake go into the barn. And y'all squealed like girls. And I was like, oh my God, it's just a little snake, and it's already gone.
You wasn't the one laying underneath that thing.
Oh my God, I never saw two guys squeal so much as I did that day. But yeah.
Mostly what he had done that day, if something was bothering him, he had a few calls that bothered him pretty good. So he always liked it that I'd sit there and listen to him. Because he had some pretty bad calls he had to do that just bothered him. Like working a wreck or something like that. Something he'd seen, it just bothered him. Yeah. Just like it would anybody, but he had very few people to talk to about it that wouldn't make fun of him at the sheriff's office, because they always made him go do the nasty stuff because he was new kid on the block, which that's to be expected.
Yeah, when he first started at the sheriff's department, they gave him the night shift. That first night, I called him, and every hour I called, Matt, you doing okay? Mom, I'm okay. Okay, 8 o'clock, Matt, Mom, I'm okay. Okay, I said, Matt, I'll wait till 10 this time. Waited till 10, 12, and then finally 2, 3, I said, okay, this is my last call. I'm just gonna make sure you're doing okay. He said, Mom, I'm doing great. I love it. He said, I'm doing great. So.
He got to be good friends with the game warden over there. since they knew he was the only one on shift, the game warden started taking some of his calls. And they got to be good friends. Then he got in with the DPS troopers over there that he had enough backup that if he got in trouble, we felt comfortable that he could get out of it.
Law enforcement would tell us if they had a situation that needed to be addressed, they would call Matt.
If they needed it diffused, they would call Matt.
Yes, they would call Matt to diffuse it. And so Matt would calmly talk or whatever he needed to do in law enforcement. But as far as anything else that I can think of, I mean, you know, we used to go camping. We'd go camping. Oh, it's wonderful times. Cooking dinner out, roasting marshmallows. It's just a blast. Just a blast. He always loved that.
I remember I was at the sheriff's office. It was about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and he had recently become a dog handler and become certified. And I was typing a report or doing something, and he wanted to show me how his dog could do the latest search. And he took that facet of his professional career very seriously. He took all of it very seriously, but he was very proud, I guess, of being a canine handler and having that dog do exactly what it needed to do. And well, as I said, I had spent most of my morning at the sheriff's office, and I can't remember what I was doing, if it was paperwork or something, but it was 10:30, 11, and I left to go home. I was going to eat some lunch and let my dog out, and I hadn't been to the house too long, and Derek Johnson at the sheriff's office called me and was like, "Jason, I need you." And I could tell right away something was wrong, and I said, "What is it, Derek?" He said, "We lost the deputy, and I need you." And Highway 6, he gave me the location. And at the time, had another good friend that worked there that worked with me at the sheriff's office 20 years ago, named Jeremy Minke. And I was thinking that's who it was going to be, because I had just left Matt. I had just left him, and I said, "Derek, who is it?" And he said, "It's Matt." And
Well, it hadn't rained for a while. And then that October 11th, that morning, it was raining, pouring down rain. He was coming back from lunch, and he saw the chief on the side of the road. It was we went to lunch at 12:15, and then at 10 till 1, I said, "Wow, it stopped raining." I was in my car checking emails, messages, whatever. And I was like, "Wow, it stopped raining." 12:50 was when the accident happened. It was like an intuition. I don't know whatever you want to call it, but I felt like something happened at that time. Couldn't pinpoint what it was.
My name is Danny Crumno, and currently I'm retired. Before retiring, I was a police chief at the city of Riesel for 30 years. And on or about October the 11th, 2019, I was sitting beside the road, and it's normal for people to pull up beside my police car and say, "Hey, somebody has a flat tire," or "Somebody needs help." And on this date, somebody pulled up and said, "There's a wreck right over the hill." Well, I drove over the hill, and I found out that in Falls County, there had been 2 cars that had slid off the road. I got out and I parked my car on the shoulder and blocked the shoulder off. And as I'm sitting there, Deputy Matt Jones pulls up behind me. And I didn't know Matt Jones personally. I may have worked with him in the past because it's real common, but right where we're at, to work with the Falls County Sheriff's Office and McLennan. And anyhow, everything was fine. And I noticed Deputy Jones pull up behind me. And so I walked from Korea's car, and we walked about halfway in between the two cars, and Deputy Jones walked up, and I told him, I said, "You know that we're in a bad place." And his first reply was, "Yeah, I know." And we kind of laughed about it a little bit, and the next thing you know, I heard the sound of a car skidding. And I whirled around and I reached for his arm. I don't know if I ever got it or not, but I saw our car coming at us. And as this car come at us, it was completely backwards and sideways. So we knew we were in danger, but nobody knew which way to run. We knew the car was coming from the south, and we need to run one direction, but do you run toward the front of the car or the back of the car? And that took an extra second. And Deputy Jones, I don't think he ever made up his mind which way he needed to run. Matt was knocked from where we at, I don't know how far, I'm gonna guess 30 yards maybe. And the grass was very high. The grass was maybe chest high. And there was law enforcement all over, but nobody knew that another officer had been hit. Since Jones had not checked out, and even if he had checked out, it wouldn't have made any difference because there was officers on scene, and nobody knew. Korea was helping me out, but Korea was actually in his car when Deputy Jones pulled up behind me. And so after we were hit, I'm sure he heard me, probably heard the car and me when I hit the back of his car. And nobody even knew to look for Deputy Jones.
A terrible accident this afternoon in Falls County. A deputy is killed and the police chief of Riesel is seriously injured while trying to assist a motorist. DPS just holding a press conference about 40 minutes ago, bringing us some new information on that crash.
So about 1:30, I was back in the shop, and we were finishing up orientation, and news flash came through. Accident, Falls County Sheriff Deputy died or killed. And I said, wow. I was telling my boss, I said, my son's a deputy. She said, well, maybe you should call and check on him. I said, okay. Well, I got his voicemail. And so I figured, well, he's either working a wreck or he's not working, because I didn't always know his schedule. We stayed out of their business. We always did. We didn't, meddle. And so I went back to work, and then About 2:30, when you got home, everybody was at the
About
house?
3.
3?
The Conley police officers are the ones that met me at the house to tell me. The Conley School District police officers, which I had known them forever.
So I finally found out when I was leaving the shop at 3:30, I saw all these missed calls. And so then I went back in because I had a bad feeling. And I went back in and I told my boss, I said, could I please use the conference room to see what these calls are about? And then I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And I just dropped the phone and just started screaming and curled up in a ball and kept saying, please get hold of Ronnie, call my husband, get hold of Ronnie. I need Ronnie, I need Ronnie. Of course, I couldn't get hold of you because everybody by then had started showing up at the house. Your mom, dad, neighbors, everybody was over at the house.
And actually, that was when I left my phone with Dana and went over to their house.
And next door neighbors. And then so finally, you finally called me. I finally got hold of you, and you said they're coming to get you, the police officers. I don't. It was all kind of a blur to me that whole weekend. But it was very tragic, very hard. We finally went to sleep that Friday night about 2, 3 in the morning. Woke up at 6, and I said, "Is it really true?" I said to him. He said, "Yeah, honey, it's really true." And I just said, we got to get up. More people are coming. We got to get up. And it's just more people. It's just all weekend, in and out, in and out. And so.
And the more flustered I'd get, my neighbors would see me sitting on their back porch most of the time just to get away from everybody.
Yeah, he had to. Yeah. I kept thinking, he's coming up. He's going to be here. Matt's going to show up. His friends are here. Everybody's here. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, no. And then his best friend, Colton came in and he gave me a hug and he's like, it's okay, Mama, it's okay, it's okay. And I was like, I don't think it is. Because Matt should be hugging me, not you. I don't mean that ugly, but, Matt always gave me a hug when he left. Every time he left the house, he hugged me and said he loved me. And I didn't get that chance to tell him goodbye, and that's hard, y'all. That's hard. And but yeah, that's how that kind of played out. And of course, Sunday we had to be at the funeral home, and then the whole week started, and we were told where to be, when to be.
Yeah, and everybody telling you what you should and shouldn't feel, and where you should and shouldn't be, and
where to go, what time to be here, what time to be there, and
most of the time that was why I disappeared to my neighbor's house. It was easier to get away than cause a big scene. To me, that was the easiest way to deal with it. I had the keys to my neighbor's house. I was told to go there anytime I needed to, whether they was there or not. So every so often, they'd come in and I'm sitting in their living room. I don't like a lot of attention to start with. So it doesn't take much for me to get overwhelmed with a bunch of people. And my attitude goes downhill from there. So it's easier to take myself out of the equation than make problems. Especially with a bunch of the people that was there, I didn't need that issue.
when it first happened, I will tell you, I thought my life was over. Because we had always promised we'd always be there for the boys. One of us would always be. If something happened to us, we'd always be with the boys. So we had to, we're always one to talk, communicate. Now he had to go back to work. I couldn't. And yeah, I know there were days that he would come home and the house would still be dark. And so I guess it's just, I think what helped us most, that gave us the most hope, was going to the national law enforcement. Memorial in D.C. That is where people from all over the United States, families who have lost children in the line of duty, and that's what helped us. We saw hope there. There was hope.
You figure
Because-
out you're not the only one dealing with it.
Yeah, because that's how we felt. We felt like we were the only ones. And so going to that memorial, because they do a lighting of the candles, they have workshops you can go to dinners, and it was amazing to see people from 2005 that still had lost a child from back then that were still coming to help families, new families, and bring hope to them. And so that's how we saw that there is hope, and we can make this, and we can get through this. If these people can, all these people, I don't know how many people were there that year. There was a lot, because there were 2 years, 19 and 20, and we went in 21. So there's 483 that were recognized that year for those 2 years. So there were a lot of families there, and we met a lot of people, and a lot of people we still talk to today on Facebook that we've connected with the loss of a child. And so it was that helped us the most.
You know, everybody thinks that it can't happen to their agency. You know, we're a small agency here. It can't happen. It can, and you have to. Number one, I think it raised everyone's situational awareness to possibly avoid that type of tragedy in the future. And number two, I'll tell you at the funeral, you know, that was, if you'll think back, that was a pretty tough time to be a cop in the country, and seeing, I mean, the absolute mass turnout. These people, they had no connection to Matt. They had no connection to Falls County, but they were there to honor the sacrifice, and that was. I know for me personally, and I know for other officers, you know, the news media will tell you that cops are bad and no one cares and no one appreciates what you do, but that's not the case.
I mean, I still wear his. So this is a bracelet that his parents had for, I guess, the day of his memorial. We went out to his grandfather's place. This is my second one. I broke one, but it's got his end of watch date, which is coming up next month. It'll be 5 years next month. Just remembering that. I mean, the only day I haven't worn this was on my wedding day. My wife was like, no watches, no wristbands. So that was literally the only day I haven't worn this. So I just see it every now and then. It reminds me of Matt, how good he was as a person. He did what he wanted to do. He was doing what he wanted, helping other people. But just, I don't know, day by day, just remembering him. Anytime I see any type of police officer, sheriff, whatever, it reminds me of Matt every single time.
He would go to work. Finally, after 3 weeks, he said, "Honey, I've got to go to work." I said, "How can you go to work?" I didn't understand him. "Why are you going to work? Our son's gone. How can you even think about that?" He said, "Well, honey, we have to have some money coming in." I was like, "No, we don't. I need you here." And he's like, "I have to work." And I would get mad at him sometimes, and then I'd get on my hands and knees and just pray. And I just prayed every day. I prayed the hardest I ever have prayed. And that helped a lot too, though, to get me through it.
I just miss the fun me and him used to always have, cutting up with each other, the help I'd get around doing stuff. That's what I miss. Because anytime I'd call him, he'd show up, and it was the same thing for me. "Dad, I got this problem with this. Can you come look at it?"
But how did you cope through the day?
How did I cope? Not real well. Man, I was very moody. Didn't take much to set me off. I just finally started easing up. quit trying to be so stressed about everything. Adopted the deal. If I can't fix it, can't worry about it. And can't really fix what happened. I can still feel about it, but I can't keep on dwelling on it, or it was gonna put me right beside him.
Being the supervisor of a district of game wardens, before Matt's passing, it was always in the back of my head, you know, am I sending somebody to something that's gonna get them killed? But afterwards, you know, that was so very much a part of my thought process on just about everything I did. But you know, it's always, like I said, it never leaves your mind. I mean, with every time it rains. And I found that I don't know if it's when I was out there, you know you have another job to do, so you just stuff it away, and it pops up. I don't know if that's you think you've processed it, but I mean. Sorry.
It was a shock to us. You know, it was more heartbreaking for us to know what Debbie and Ronnie were going through. You know, it just, you know, it breaks our heart for somebody to have to go through that. But the knowledge, knowing that Matt had accepted Christ, helped me handle it a lot better, you know. Of course, I miss the guy, you know. He was a good kid, you know. And I hated for something like that to happen to him. I know he knew Christ was his Savior. And that's all that mattered to me, you know, was knowing that I will see him again someday, you know, and that's what I lean on, you know. That's what I have hope for, you know. Yeah, I'm sorry that what happened to him happened, you know. I miss him, which I know everybody does, you know, just that smile on his face all the time, you know, constantly. It didn't matter what he was going through, he always had that smile on his face, you know, and I remember that about him.
Someone told me the first year, and he says, Debbie, I'm gonna tell you, don't get mad, go out there and pull weeds. I said, what does that mean, Thomas? He said, go pull weeds, it'll help you. Do you know that really does help? Good. Pulling weeds, you pull them and you really just feel like you're yanking some of the guilt or the anger out of your system. Yeah. Not guilt, anger that you've got, because you're pulling something out of the ground. All I do now, I do flowers. I do plants from Matt's cemetery. I mean, I never did flowers before. And now that's what I love to do, is to make flower arrangements, flower pieces, intricate ones. You know, I'm into that. And I'll go out there and just pluck weeds sometimes because I still feel angry. Do it sometimes if you're angry about something. Even if it's just grass, because you ain't got no weeds. I mean, you know.
Try that.
I mean, it really, you know, I thought he was crazy at first.
You won't have a yard left.
I thought he was crazy at first, and then I started doing it, and it does help.
You know, because we've been through the mourning part of his story, but now it's more of the awareness and the memory of it. again, why I wear this. It reminds me that they're out there every single day, and it reminds me of Matt. So not necessarily, I think I'm past the mourning, and there'll always be pain there. Friends and family, they're always going to have those memories that they think of, and it makes them sad. But then there's those times that we remember him smiling, his little goofy laugh he had, and just those moments outweigh any of the bad, 100%. So just knowing that who he was as a person when he was alive outweighs any of the pain, and at least for me, afterwards.
I wanted to keep carrying Matt's legacy going by helping others. I think we as humans need to do that, leave our legacy of kindness, goodness, and helping people that need that. And I wish I could help everybody. We just can't do that though. So, I'm a bereavement coordinator. I took a job on as a bereavement coordinator for hospice to help families. It's not the same. It's still a death, but it's not the same as a tragic. But it's still a death, and to some people, it is still tragedy to them. They're expecting them to pass away, but when it happens, it's tragic still.
Still final.
It's still final, yes, you're right. And so I've done that, and I'm doing support groups, meetings and stuff. So I've went on with that direction. But there are many more other directions that I would like to go into, and he's always supported me, so it's not like he's not involved. But he's like behind the scenes, And then moving forward, we do a lot of things still for Matt here because Matt was looking for a new place that he wanted out in the country. So as you see, we have a lot of Matt stuff out, and there's stuff out on the deck. Matt loves Sasquatch. There's some things of Sasquatch out there of Matt. We've made a bar out there in the shop for Matt because Matt did like his Coors Light, and I'm gonna tell you, a lot of policemen do drink after hours. And so, he liked that. And so we try to keep him still here. We're living for him. Yeah. He lives within us still, and a part of us went home with him that day. And so that will always be. And so as long as I'm breathing, or we're breathing, he will always be remembered.
The constant outpouring of support was huge for me personally, and people that had been through it. I think that is being able to talk to somebody that's been through it, that knows, is a huge help. In the 24 years I've been in law enforcement, our outlook on how we deal with critical stress incidents has changed. And I can remember the West explosion. I was there that night at the West explosion, and that was kind of the first time I ever remember having a critical stress debrief. And I thought it was bunk and BS at the time, but as I continued to mature, that definitely has its place, and it somebody described it to me as we all, our emotions or feelings or trauma it's in a bucket, and when the bucket, if you're not emptying it out constantly, when it fills up, it overflows into other areas of your life, and that I found that to be true. So advice I would have is don't isolate yourself. Don't think you have to do it alone, because you don't.
I think there's statistics are out that married folks that have lost a child, I think more than half of them end up in a divorce. So it takes both the parents to support each other. It's not all about one person, it's about both. And understanding friends. Yeah. Very, very understanding friends that understand whatever Ronnie does, he does it for a reason. And I'm not there to say, well, you don't need to do that. You know, this is what you need to do. You do it in your own, parents have to do it all in their own way. I even told my kids, and I tell everybody to this day, we live to die. So live it right, live a good life, and pray for the end to be where you want to be. You know, so often as we're younger, we're not thinking of that. Matt always did. Matt always did what was right.
I really didn't think we'd stay together because I didn't want anything to do with anybody. I wanted to be with Matt. That's what it's supposed to be. And somehow the Lord pulled me up. It had to be the Lord. I'm telling you, the Lord just said, you've got to get it together, girl. And then going to that memorial up in Washington and seeing those other parents, and there were thousands, and knowing that they got through it 10, 15 years ago, it can be done. Just a lot of hope, a lot of patience, a lot of support, and it's just
And a lot of belief.
and a lot of belief, and day by day, breath by breath. Yes.